Hey everyone, Riyad here from the DR Group.
Will Ellis from the DR Group, and we have with us today Saman Habibi, who is with our brokerage right at Home Realty, but he's a numbers man, and I love what you do there. Saman, you are always about numbers and giving people facts. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're the rental property investment guru. So yeah, we're leaning on you today to get some wisdom.
At least that's what people think. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. And yeah, my name's Saman Habibi, like Will and Riyad said, and I've been with Right at Home. I am with Right at Home, and I decided to focus on the investment property space, mainly because of my background in finance and accounting, and I thought it was a good transition for me to try and differentiate myself when I am out there in the field. So yeah, I do a lot of my business with investment properties and with investors looking at different things. So yeah, I thought today we can talk about the Durham region and what's happening in the Durham region. What's happening in the different areas across the Durham region. So from Pickering to Clarington, what are some of the trends there? And then we can talk about this new concept coming to market, the additional dwelling units that are very popular in the US because they help with housing and providing housing and affordable housing. And then maybe we can touch on some rental rates and see what's happening with the rental rates.
Sounds good.
So, in terms of areas, so I think the Durham region has been fairly popular for investors to come and invest in. And I think for a very long time, and I think still today, it's true because of, that pricing factor and pricing relative to rental rates. So I always say that the Durham region, has that ripple effect or that spillover from Scarborough. So when we take a look at Scarborough, Scarborough is heavy built with the 1950s and 60s bungalows, and those bungalows typically get converted into legal duplexes. And that pattern was very popular and very heavy, a couple years ago, 5 to 10 years ago. And I think as that investment strategy took place in Scarborough, others wanted to do the same thing, but Scarborough was becoming expensive. So, when Scarborough used to be $500K for a bungalow, the Durham region was $300K. When Scarborough went to $800K for an as-is bungalow, Durham region was $500K, so on and so forth. And I find now Scarborough has kind of plateaued. So like to buy your typical bungalow that requires work, you're around $850, $900K, in a down market. In an up market a couple months ago, that may have been $1 million. And not many people can afford those properties. So we naturally always have that spillover from Scarborough to the Durham region. And I'd say a lot of people went directly to Oshawa. They skipped Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, and went directly to Oshawa.
Why is that?
I think to me, it's price. It's always been a price. And I say price, but we have to say price to rental income ratio. So, when you look at the Durham region, Oshawa has remained to be the cheapest in the Durham region. And I think that's because of, some of the misconceptions that Oshawa has. So people always looked at Oshawa as GM town. They referred to it as the dirty Schwa or South Oshawa. And I think though a lot of those things have had a bad reputation for Oshawa. And it's taken Oshawa a long time to recover from that. So historically, when I look at prices, as we get closer to Toronto, it's expensive. Pickering is probably the most expensive in the Durham region. I mean, you have Uxbridge, but that's kind of up north. But the Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, those are all expensive in price, but the rental rates don't necessarily increase in the same pattern, right? So when I was looking in the market, you can, let's say, buy a house. Let's say the median price in Oshawa is $500K, and the median price in Whitby is $700K or $600K. The rental rates are essentially the same. So if you get a 3-bedroom bungalow in Oshawa for $2,300, you can probably find something comparable in Whitby for 23 or 24. So it doesn't increase that high. So people are saying, well, if the rental rates are saying I'll go to the cheap market and I'll get a cheaper house with the same type of rents to help with the rent. So Yeah, I
Right.
found that it was always the relativity. So the rental rates didn't increase in the same projection as prices did. So yeah, so a lot of people, came to Oshawa, and I think that was really evident too in mid 21 and even later towards 2021 and beginning of 2022. There's a lot of investors, and we kind of saw evidence of that with out of town agents being the cooperating agents. So you look at MLS when it's sold, and it'd be agents that are from a Mississauga office or a Brampton office or an Oakville office or a Milton office. So there's a lot of that coming to the Durham region. But I say fast forward to now, Oshawa was the place for investors to buy, but now I'm looking at Whitby, I'm looking at Pickering. Pickering has that nice little pocket down by Fisherman's Bay.
Yep.
I believe it's called Bay Ridges.
Bay
And
Ridges.
just the other day, I saw a bungalow on a very good size sell on a very good size lot, sell for, I think it was 760. And this is, in my opinion, this is a good purchase, because if you compare Pickering, that's 760, a similar type of property in Oshawa would sell for 680, 690, maybe even 710, right? So you're paying, I don't know, 20 to 70K, somewhere in that range, that much of a premium, and you're getting Pickering, you're getting Bay Ridges, where the
Waterfront.
trend there is buy now, rent it, and then in 3 to 5 years time, tear it down, build a monster, sell it for 1.9, 1.8, 1.9 million. So when we talk about areas, yes, Oshawa has been very a popular spot, but I think this is the time to essentially start looking at those areas like Whitby, Pickering, and looking for these gems. Because when we talk about bungalows, and we often talk about bungalows, it's because it provides us with the most amount of options when it comes to doing things with the property. Like if we were to talk about what you and we probably live in, it's probably a 2-story house with a garage, and that's great for your principal residence. That's great. But for an investment property, that has a downfall, because your basement, which is supposed to be another living or an investment unit for you, that basement portion really eliminates square footage in the basement. So if you think about your basement, you're already losing square footage because of the mechanical room, and now you're losing additional because of the garage. So, we always talk about the bungalows because you get the same amount or just slightly less square footage in the basement compared to the bungalow's upper unit. So yeah, so in terms of areas, my takeaway here is that really be active in looking in. I know that the trend has been Oshawa, but this is the time to be looking outside of Oshawa, because opportunities are there.
Okay.
Yeah.